I think it comes as no surprise to say this by now. Terminator Dark Fate is a disaster. When we're talking about disasters, this is on an epic scale too. I mean, we're talking about meteorite from the sky raining down on the lowly little dinosaurs. Only the lowly little dinosaurs were a franchise, were the hopes and dreams of actors, were directors and on. This thing, it's an extinction level event, and well, it's not surprising. When we're talking about how bad this is going to be too, one thing that really backs this up and makes this understandable to companies, numbers. So let's go through those numbers and talk about how bad this is right now. So hey there. So today we are returning to that wonderful world of box office reports, and that's my favorite way of going out and looking at stuff. Why? Because we can use language like get woke, go broke, but there's people that always want to return volley that and say that that's hyperbolic statement. And what you do is you say, nah, here you go. Here's the real numbers. Truly, you will go broke going woke. Now, before we get into these numbers, though, you like this kind of content, make sure that you're subbed to the channel. Appreciate you folks that have been doing that lately, too. Thank you. Definitely growing the channel. Like I said, thanks for that. You like these videos, share them with others, and if you want to help out the channel, there's different ways to do so, including the Case of the Littlest Umbrella. That is our initial foray into comics. It's got 2 weeks left, and yeah, you want to check that out, definitely do. Now, as far as earnings are concerned, I like to look at a few things. Number one, I like to look at a summary, because this gives you a dedicated breakdown, plus it introduces the concept of budget, and, always double the budget for advertisement. When we're talking box office, we get some interesting things when we look at trending charts, because you can see what happens after the reviews start coming in. You get a performance level of what could be expected from the movie, so you can tell exactly how it's faring there. And then you get the international breakdown that not only goes with the top territories, but it breaks down by territory, so you can see exactly how much money is being made overseas. Now, the first thing, the summary here, what you need to include in this is the production budget. $185 million. Now, this isn't chump change for a Terminator movie. They actually went out and spent more money than Genesis, and they definitely spent more money on this movie when you're talking about advertising. That, I thought, was surprising, considering some of the avenues they took. I mean, they're talking Twitter here, for example, Facebook. They pulled out all the stops to the point that you had, right before release, $7.8 million spent on TV ads alone. I mean, we're talking 6 days with that. What did that earn you? Nothing. Nothing, really. So looking at the numbers here, you have a domestic box office of $56,885,000 and change. Internationally, you have $176,800,000 for a worldwide box office of $233,685,000. Now, that may sound like a lot of money. Again, a lot of people will look at that and they'll say, well, that definitely, it overdid that budget, so we're making money. Oh no, we're nowhere near that. I mean, we're talking about $370 million to break even. I mean, we're still coming up short, and the earnings on this, if you look at how this is starting to fare, it's looking bad. I mean, it really is. That's what I like about the charting for stuff like this. I mean, if you look at those first days, and what's interesting is if you tie in those first days to the first day shill reports, we were being told that $2.3 million, that was a sign of doing well. You're going to prosper here. Other folks came in, they were like, yeah, that's actually a really bad sign. And then you started noticing how bad that was going to be. You went from 2.3 to you had your 10.5 to your 20.1. And then finally, we started getting reviews at around 29 million. When you see that, you notice this, it just dies off because shill media could not contain the fact that, well, this is a mess, and when we're talking about a mess, we're talking about a mess of epic proportions. Now, you notice here, too, as you move forward, the earnings, they get lower. You'll have a little bit of a roller coaster ride, but you'll notice this come in, that shading. Now, what that shading tells you is an expectation level. If your movie is aiming a certain way, how is that going to do? Now, you can look at that high number. It's about $79,400,000, and that low number, well, It's coming in at around 56 million. Where are we at? Well, we're right there at the bottom. So, I mean, when we're talking about, again, this breakdown, the lowest you want to come in is at 56 million. Yeah, we're just barely missing the bottom rung here. So when we're talking about bad, we're talking about really bad. Now, the international box office, it's interesting because you're going to have the performance, that you expect from, say, a China. But China, I mean, when we're talking about these earnings, China normally picks up movies like Terminator and makes them successful. When you have issues like them going and underreporting when it comes to, say, a U.S. audience, then you have a real problem. It's saying that something is not resonating there. And yeah, China, they don't like woke movies. I mean, that's been something that has been noted again and again. They like certain things like women on screen, but they don't like something that doesn't resonate. And then when you're talking about removing John Connor and all, apparently that does not resonate with a worldwide audience at all. Now, when you're talking about South Korea here, you can see about 15 million. Then you get into the UK, and you notice all of these other places, they're coming in under $10 million. Now, when you're talking about the box office summary per territory, I always like looking at this too, because you can see when something opens. That's actually very important. What date this is reporting to, so that's important as well. We're recording this on 11/17, just a note with that. So this is actually up to date. Yeah, and when you see the opening weekend, all right, they had 26 million for opening weekend, and up till now, they've made 48. So yeah, this is dying out there. When you make 26 million within a few days, and then you only make 22 more million, you got a problem. They've opened at their maximum theaters as well. You can see the theatrical engagement numbers and on. Like I said, I think that this is always interesting to look at as a breakdown, because that Chinese engagement, compare it to number 2. South Korea makes $7.2 million here, and they do so with 1,300 theaters. I mean, compare that to China's 132,000 opening weekend theaters. I mean, that is even less than Russia, who comes in at $4.5 million. So they make quite a bit of money there, but still, the market that they're looking at, it's niche comparatively. You have to make real money other places, and you're just not doing so. You can truly see this, not only in these breakdowns, but when you start looking at the records that this is setting. I mean, we see records being set for revenue, when you're looking at, say, a top 50 all-time international box office for Paramount Pictures. But when you think about the amount of money that's gone into this and expectations in the now, if you're not setting something within the top 20 these days, you got problems. I mean, you got big problems indeed. So like I said, all of this stuff, I mean, when we break it down, what it tells you here, again, is that you have a movie that has ended a franchise. You have a movie that is probably going to damage some people's careers, be they actors, be they directors, and it's going to take away from what they can do in the future. We've already seen Tim Miller end up losing a movie because of this, in my opinion. We're going to see other places that are going to pull away from specific franchises like this. Sooner or later, too, we're actually going to see a backlash to this idea of quote-unquote woke movies. I'm actually waiting for that, too. Because there's only so much stuff that you can shovel at fans and tell them, hey, eat this, eat it now, before they say, yeah, no. And we're seeing that. We're seeing that quite a bit. We've been seeing it for years. And companies, they may be slow to change, but when they're losing this type of money, they will change. They will change indeed. But anyway, you tell me what you think about this. Again, like this kind of content, sub to the channel, share videos out, all of that wonderful stuff. Leave comments too, pro or con. You don't have to agree with me, or maybe you've seen something in this as well. Also tell me what you think about this format. I'm trying out different formats, working with stuff. I'll probably mess around and tweak this, but let me know what you think about that too. Ending, I want to say thank you. I do appreciate you showing up and empowering endeavors. That's what these folks forget. When they look at this stuff, they forget who they're supposed to be going out and placating. It's not them. It's not people that are shrill but in some small minority when it comes to spending. No, it's folks like yourself, folks that care enough to sit down, look at these earnings and say, well, if it would have been then. But anyway, I want to thank you. I appreciate you showing up. We'll be doing this stuff again really soon. Thanks.